Yes.
Yes.
So, welcome everybody to Robot Builders Night Virtual for April the 9th. We are going to go over a couple of housekeeping items, actually a few housekeeping items, and then we'll start queuing and we'll open up for general discussion. So just a reminder about the new monthly meeting time. It's the fourth Saturday at 10 a.m. and on April 27th, fourth Saturday this month, at Dallas Makerspace, we'll have a presentation on PCB design, how you can design a PCB from a schematic and get 5 boards for $10. There'll be pizza for lunch and a show and tell, robot show and tell afterwards. I want to just spend a little time exposing the group to the new email server coming this month. And so it is, I sent out a survey to members. If you're a member and a paid up member and you didn't get the survey, please drop me a note, and I'll make sure you get a copy or get an invitation to contribute. This is we're looking for a name. We wanted to call it DPRG at googlegroups.com because it's going to be based on Google Groups. But that name was already taken. Looks like DPRG list at googlegroups.com is heading the field at the moment, closely followed by DPRG Hub and DPRG Robot Builders with DPRG bots trailing in the rear, and DPRG robots. So hopefully, so the survey is open until next Sunday night, and then we'll tally it up and figure out what we're going to call the thing. I wanted to spend just a few minutes going over the policies to see if there's any discussion or questions that come to mind. So can you guys see this policies document? So it's our intent to decommission the current DPRG list at lists.dprg.org email distribution system and replace it by a DPRG Google group and use that to distribute email to group members. And so this document lists the policies that the comms team recommended to the board and the board agreed with. And it also describes the transition plan to move members from the current email server to the Google group. So in this context, member means a member of the Google group, irrespective of whether they're a current active paid up member of DPRG or not. The Google group is like the current email server is open to all. So the policies, anyone can request to join the Google group, and the default response of the admins is to admit requesters, unless it's obvious that they're a spammer. So it's an open group, and new members who join by, and let me just say, if anyone has any questions or concerns, please interrupt me as we go, and I'll try and answer them. New members who join by requesting to join are moderated. So that means moderated members, when they try to send something to the group, admins get a notification showing the email they want to send, and they can approve it or not. And the purpose of that is just to stop spammers who say, please admit me, and then they try and send spam. So once a new member is seen to not be a spammer, admins will change them to unmoderated, and they'll be able to send, just like you can to today's server. That does not apply to members who get migrated. That is, members who are a member of the current email server and get migrated to the new email server. They're a known quantity, so they don't need to get moderated. There are 82 email addresses on the current email server, so we're going to migrate as many as permit us to migrate. More on that later in the transition section. The group's email history will be public, viewable by anyone on the web who can access Google Groups, but only group members can post. So that's the same policy as the current server. Basically, we're trying to keep the policies as close to those of the current server as we can, because the current server, besides, it'll just be a more modern implementation, but the current policies seem right for this group. Group members can send and receive posts to the group by email. They can view the message history on the group website, but they will need an email tied to a Google account to do so. So that means that they can go in to groups.google.com and go to My Groups or DPRG list, and they'll see the messages and how many messages there are and what people said, and it just has a whole modern look and feel, and they can reply from the web, so it's no longer necessary to reply using your email client. You can reply directly on the web. But you do, again, the caveat is you do have to have an email account that's have an email address that's connected to a Google account. Your email address can be anything you want, and there are instructions that we'll send out for how to register your non-Gmail email address and connect it to a Google account so that you can access things like this from the web. And basically what it really comes down to is Google Groups has a more comprehensive and enforced authorization, and so it actually checks that whoever is allowed to do whatever, and so you got to tie that to an identity, and the identity needs to be a Google identity. Moderators may delete posts that they consider inappropriate, and they may moderate or ban members who post inappropriate messages. Never heard of that happening on this group, but just to say it's possible. And the DPRG.org website will link to the Google Group site as the DPRG email server, and new members of the list will be directed to the new server. And the website will also provide a link to the current DPRG list history. So in other words, after we go live, you'll still have a way to get back to that email from October last year when someone did a presentation on whatever, and so we want to provide historical continuity. Members will not have access to other members' email addresses, because anyone can join by asking and then harvest those email addresses. So only group managers will have access to all of the member email addresses. So we made, it's a more private policy choice. We did consider allowing members of the group to see everybody's email addresses, because that would be aligned with the request at the February members meeting, where it was asked that it be easier for members to contact each other. But we thought that exposing email addresses to everybody who requests to join is probably going a step too far. But there's no change to the current practice of publishing DPRG member emails on the dprg.org website. So those are all the policies that the comms team settled on. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah. We have Discord and this Google Groups. What is the expected usage model for it? Like you seem like to send messages to other members, you'd go through Discord.
Great
But
question.
what's the policy of the group?
There isn't a policy as to which group to use for what. We recognize that some people haven't and won't and will never join Discord. Some DPRG members or members of the DPRG community, let me put it that way, just will never do chat. You know, some people hate social media, and we need to accept that. Also, email is the lowest common denominator, so it's the way that we can be as confident as we can be that we'll get messages out, for example, announcing monthly meetings, who the speaker is, and what time it's at, and any Roborama related.
I can understand. I can appreciate going from the officials like you to the members, but what is the purpose of going from the members in? Does it just get spammed out to all the other members, or if someone leaves a message?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand does what get spammed to other members?
Well, if a member sends a mail to this group,
I wouldn't call
why
it
would they do that? Why would they do that?
Well,
I'd call it communications, right? I wouldn't call it spam.
Yeah.
Because you signed up for this thing and we're part of the members, right? So spam usually infers something that's negative and something you didn't want, right? This is stuff you want. I believe it to be stuff you want.
And if you don't want it, you don't have to get email from it. You can always just go to the group on the website.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Yeah. And Mike, I think the other thing is sometimes the email is more appropriate for long in this, gritty type of discussion sometimes. So I'm just saying that it does, think about it. How have you been spammed really bad by the DPRG list?
No, I haven't.
That expect it to be very similar to that. You know what I mean? So that's what
I was just concerned if there's like an interactive chat using that email server, it's gonna, fill up my email.
It's gonna suck a lot of the things that would happen. For example, if you had a new product or you saw a discount or something, you'd probably throw it out on Discord quickly. Okay, but you don't know who's going to look at Discord on that given day. So if you send an email, it's going to go to everybody in the group. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of those things are very, small time window type stuff. So you're trying to get as much people as you can to know about it. I mean, we'll see who, if nobody uses it, it's not a problem, right? If everybody uses it, it's not a problem. So it doesn't matter. It's just not going to be a problem.
Yeah, the main difference between Discord and something like this is searchable using Google. Discord is not. You can go into Discord and search, but you can't search messages on a Discord server from Google.
That's right.
Yeah. So they sort of have different feels, and of the 82 people, let's just pull some numbers out of the air, and let's say we can reach 60 of them, and they agree to be migrated to the Google Groups. Okay, so then you can reach all 60 by email through the Google Group. But I would guess, I think I looked at our number of members on Discord, and I think we're around 20 or 30 kind of range. It's going to be possibly a non-overlapping set because like some people find the Discord server by Googling and like students, high school students and such, and they ask to join, sure. But they really have kind of different nature of communication. There were only 82 messages in the whole last year sent out to the email list. So you don't need to worry about getting bombarded with huge volumes of email. The Discord is kind of more of a chatty type of place. Does that address the question you're asking, Mike? Oops, you're muted. You're muted, Mike.
All right. I'll unmute myself. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the policies? Okay. So the transition plan to the Google Group is that we'll encourage members of the current list to migrate to the Google Group, but it will be opt-in, and we won't do it automatically without each member's consent. So each member needs to respond in the affirmative to get migrated. We had a big discussion about that, and the feeling of the team ended up being that we considered automatic migration to new accounts to be going a bit beyond what people expect. Even though I acknowledge that when you buy something from joescrabshack.com, they'll send you spam for the rest of your days. That's not how we want to work, and we want to respect our members' emails more than that. So we propose June 1st for the shutdown of the current email server as an email distribution server, and after that it'll be Google Groups for everything. We'll advertise frequently and whittle down the number of current server members who haven't migrated. I'm going to take on a personal contact project to try and reach everyone, but it is, I think, likely that some will be left behind. Some people just want the fun, and found that when I did the project to try and reach all the members and ask if they'd seen Doug's test messages. And so anyway, you probably haven't. But we will add in some direction, and we might switch directions. I don't feel like we're quite solid on this yet, but we'll ensure a one-way migration of messages that's sent from one onto the other, so that, and maybe we'll flip it halfway through or something, but so that someone on the new server will get messages from the old one, but not necessarily vice versa. We'll do something along those lines.
Paul, one quick question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Doug, I think, had done some testing to confirm that the existing email server is actually working. I ask because in the past there's been some discussion about people who were quite confident that they had registered, including myself, but have never gotten any emails from that system. Is that an issue or not?
No, I don't think it's correct that it was stated that well, there might be differences of opinion, let me put it that way, as to whether the current email server is in fact working correctly or not. I do know of at least 3 cases I've been involved in personally where individuals, including yourself and others, were not receiving email from the current server, even though they were believed to be registered and they couldn't access the server. They'd get things like server error messages. So it's been my experience through those engagements that I don't think it's working correctly.
So that leads to the question: if the only way to get into the new server is to receive a message through the old server that you must respond to, will that be effective?
That's a very good question. The only
But that's not the only way. You can go sign up right now.
well,
Thank you.
but not
Yeah.
yeah. Well, not
But
right
you-
now because we haven't gone live
Well,
yet.
yeah, but
yeah,
you don't have to have a. Yeah,
Those
you can
who are watching this video, who are at this meeting, who can receive RBNV, or I'm sorry, can receive messages from the current server, and for those current paid up DPRG members who don't receive mail from the current server, but I manually copy it over to them, they will get the information. There is likely some set of individuals who did not receive the messages, who are not paid up members, and who are therefore unknown. However, I will be taking all of the emails from the current server and attempting to contact those individuals. Now, if they don't read their email, if the email they have in the current server is something they don't look at anymore, then they're going to be lost.
Yeah, if the tree falls in the forest, no one's there to hear it. Did it really fall?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It sounds like it's been adequately covered, Paul. Thanks.
Is it a real problem?
You know, I do want to say thanks to the comms team, to Steve Edwards and Raj and Harold for all the work that they helped put into this and evaluating both the chat server and the email server. And you know, we really did try to do an honest and a good job of you know, getting systems in place that allow members and the community generally to communicate with one another and to, you know, in a low friction way. So, but if anyone has suggestions or things aren't working, please let me know and I'll chase it down.
And I'm going to interject into all this stuff. I want to throw a severely huge shout out to Paul, because having been in those meetings, and I've been probably, I don't know if I'm the most coarse person in meetings, but sometimes I like talking to the gorilla in the room, and that doesn't come across too well sometimes. But I will tell you that Paul's done a wonderful job of keeping us on point going forward, and has taken the time-consuming task on himself to make sure that all of those people that are currently signed up, to do his best effort to get them, contact them. And I think you said several different ways, but contact them and get them onto the new server so they are not doing that. And I will tell you right now, I'm a pretty giving person, as I think most people on here. But Paul, I don't know if I'd be doing that if I had your job, which is one reason I don't have your job, by the way. So
Harold, I appreciate
yeah,
it.
it's a huge thing. It's a really huge thing, and it's because it just doesn't take zero effort, doesn't take zero time, and I know that Paul's invested a lot of effort and time to make this happen.
Thank you. Well, you know, DPRG is a good group, and you know, I believe in it, and I think it will grow. I think it will be a place where people are successful in sharing their interest in robotics, and so you know, that's what I'm really working for.
Didn't we already have a drive-by of now he didn't name his character too well on the Discord. Didn't we already have somebody find us on Discord starting asking us Vex Robotics questions from now to blue?
Yeah.
I'm like, I was happy to see that. I didn't like his username. His tag on it wasn't great.
Yeah.
But-
Fraud. Yeah.
Yeah. But that seems like that's what we want to happen, right? A little bit of what we want to happen. Maybe not all,
Yeah.
but a little bit. You know, people.
Our and and on that subject, our request that people use meaningful names on the Discord server seems to have completely failed. So that's okay. We'll run with it as it is. But let me ask you guys, along those lines, whenever anyone has signed up to the server, I always offer them the opportunity to introduce themselves, and I've been keeping a little spreadsheet of their username and who I know them to be as a real person, based on whether they're come to RBNV. So, do you guys have an interest in us maybe sharing that in some way? Kind of who's who of Discord?
I'm not 100% sure that that's a good idea.
Okay. Input taken. And I hear the silence and no one's jumping up and down, so I won't do that. I'll just keep it for my own reference. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Got a couple of TBD items that the team hasn't discussed. Should we have an admin migrate users as they agree to get migrated? Should we have an admin add new members to the group so we can ensure it gets done right? Okay, I've already reviewed this item. So that's it for the email server. So thank you for your time. Any questions on the migration? Comments on the migration aspect?
I have a suggestion, maybe, Paul.
Yeah.
For migrating users, you already have a list you've been sending us out. Basically, what you want the list name to be, that sort of thing. Well, just a questionnaire. Do you want your email address to be migrated over automatically?
Great idea. Use a survey.
And
Let people respond, and then we can migrate in bulk. I love that.
exactly.
Thank you.
One thing I would suggest about that, like I say, I believe some of the problems that we have there's a couple of problems. Probably there's a couple of people who are using really, really old email addresses on the thing. And so if Paul is getting a response from them, just ask them that you want to be brought over and what email you want to bring over. Because people might use this to update to their new whatever they're using now, whatever they're looking at. Yeah.
You mean my AOL address is probably not any good anymore?
I don't know. It's like Ron's address. He's what is he, CompuServe or something? I didn't even know that existed anymore.
That's excellent advice. Is to see if people have relatively new mail server addresses they want used. From my own experience with mail servers with my model airplane club, people who had set up their own proprietary web server with their own email system a long time ago and insisted on continuing to use it didn't play well in modern mail servers, and neither did any of the Yahoo or Yahoo derivative emails. I just wondered if you've tested any of that through the Google Groups mail service.
No.
They do not play well with mail servers. They work, but they work poorly. There are things that are missing, that are handicapped, and you'll hear about them if you migrate a Yahoo email. I say Yahoo email. Yahoo is also an outsourcer for a number of cable and phone companies. For instance, Rogers here in Canada uses what's called Rogers email, but it's not Rogers email. They've outsourced it to Yahoo and then relabeled it as Rogers. So you need to be aware that there may be some email services that are not Google-based, they're not Gmail, that may not play as well as you expect.
And,
that was
and
my
Paul, just a reminder, you're sharing your screen right now.
Looks like a calendar.
Yeah.
And And for those people who were upset about the problems we were having, the only advice I could give them was to set up a new Gmail account and use that.
And did you find that with the Google Groups migration, Tom?
It was not Google Groups that we were using.
Okay,
It was a third-party email service.
thanks.
But the logic that's used for email services is pretty common stuff. So it may not be any different in the Google Groups mail service
Yeah,
when they do basically a retransmission through a mail service.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the warning, and it makes sense. I think from a DPRG perspective, one of the things I see attractive about Google Groups is it's hard to argue that Google Groups is broken because it's the 800-pound gorilla. It kind of defines what correct is. So
That's why my easy answer to people was to just set up a Gmail account.
yeah, and so
And most of them do.
we may end up there.
Yeah, the other thing you need to be aware of with using Google services, I mean, Gmail is almost certainly never going to go away, but Google Groups, I wouldn't put anywhere near that level of confidence on it. You know, a lot of people signed up for Google Plus or whatever the heck it was, and you know, it just disappeared one day because Google decided that they weren't going to do it anymore. So.
Yep, absolute fair comment, and absolutely right on, John. It may or may not be, yeah. But you know, we'll figure something out. If it goes away, we'll do something different.
You may want to set up a Yahoo email address or find a Yahoo user and migrate them early as a test.
Are there any still out there?
There were a ton of them in our system, and I couldn't believe how many, especially when you factored in the third-party services that are doing white label Yahoo.
Well, I have a Yahoo account, so I could migrate myself.
Okay.
Thanks for that suggestion. Wow, lots of good tips came out of this discussion. Thanks, guys. Another thing to watch for that's on the move is we're going to set up a new Google Meet invitation, and we won't do it before we've had at least one more RBNV, so that we can talk to everybody that typically calls into this call, and make sure that they know about it. But in case you don't call in to whatever call we announce that at, and you know, we'll announce it through all the usual forums, through all the usual channels. But be aware that we are going to change to a DPRG-based meeting invitation system. Doug has very kindly been working away at making making Google Workspace for nonprofits work for DPRG. And what that means is that rather than having to use a Google meeting that's really hosted by the Dallas Makerspace, that's just not right for an organization that is not the Dallas Makerspace to use its resources. We will be using our own resources, and as part of that, we will be changing the meeting invitation, which will result in a new on the URL?
I do.
Yes. Yes.
So keep on doing that, and you'll be safe. If you always go to the same URL, you may end up stranded. And we'll be sensible about the migration. You know, we'll keep a channel open on the old URL in case someone didn't get the message and they dial in, at least for a couple of meetings. So, you know, we'll try and catch people who didn't get the word, but just to give you guys a heads up, but that URL will be changing. Okay, and then the reminder of Roborama contest. It was decided on the Discord channel that we would split quick trips into a wheeled and non-wheeled category. So two different sets of prizes for the wheeled and the non-wheeled quick trip contest. So legged, hovercraft, we talked about this last week. And then Foursquare, 5-spot, and 10. We'll be at the Delta Makerspace practice on the 25th of May and the actual competition on 1st of June. And then finally, the monthly meeting schedule. Ray Hampton was lined up for April 7th, CC design. And we got Roborama practice with Roborama, and we got very excited about this. Bob Cook, who will be doing a remote presentation on how to train how he trains his AI to find codes. So his chance at Robo Magellan and how to train AIs was a frequently requested topic for a talk at the February meeting. And then in July, Scott Gibson will be talking about JavaScript, and we'll fill out the other months as time goes on. Any questions on any of the DPRG catch-up stuff before we move to the list? Discussion. Okay, Doug P, you're up first.
Okay. Okay, give me a second here. All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to share the screen, and I wanted to highlight a product that I just got mine in yesterday, and we're going to talk about it. It's this one. Yeah. All right. So I remember mentioning to everybody probably 3 or 4 months ago that this was coming, and they had an announcement sale, and they were selling it for $20 or $30 less than this. But this is the Audicam Pen Pi Insight, and it sells for $100. That's $60 cheaper than the Oak D Lite. It does not have a stereo camera, so you don't get depth information on it. But a lot of times you're not necessarily using the depth information. So it's made to be attached to the back of a Raspberry Pi 5. Okay. It doesn't need a Raspberry Pi 5 because it has it does have some sort of, well, I want to say they use OpenVINU, so it's probably Movidius accelerated, though they don't use the word Movidius.
It has the same internals as the Oak D line
so
has.
Then Oak D Lite is a Movidius.
Yeah.
So you can run this actually with a Pi Zero, because all the heavy lifting is done by the camera itself. So let's see, it's 1.8 lens, which is pretty good. Usually you're a minimum of 2.8, so it's got a bright lens. It is autofocus. That's probably not the best configuration for a robot. You can get into jitter problems with that, but we'll see. It's got an IR filter, so it's not it doesn't do night vision. Let's see anything else here. 15 focus range is 15 centimeters, so I think that, I don't know, 15 centimeters would be 6 inches, so 6 inches to infinity, and it does take 5 volts, 1 amp, and it is powered from the USB port. So that might be a deal breaker for anything beside that doesn't have a USB 2.3 port. So that does take out Pi 0. I don't know about Pi 0 2.
It doesn't have to, because you can hook up a powered hub to a Pi 0 and power it off of that.
Yeah, but it's going to take, it will take a chunk of power. So you just can't plug it into, well, to be quite honest, I plugged it into, I don't know, it says an amp, but it must be able to survive with less than an amp, because I've tried it in a few things that did. All right, so this is kind of what it is. All right, so now I'm going to do a little demo here. Let me get, oh, here it is. Now, where's the are you guys actually seeing the AutoCam?
No,
Oh,
just the website.
Okay, good. All right, stop sharing. Now I'm going to share on another computer, but if you can pin me. So you see me, so I'm big now, right? So I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to show you the actual physical unit. You can see it over here, standing on a small, it's aluminum. This case is aluminum. The backside is a PC board. All right. Now, so here, let's go. So for the demo, if this works, I'm going to share this guy. This is being run on a Raspberry Pi 4. So this might not be as useful. We'll see. Okay, here we go. So, all right. So now you should be seeing my other screen and me kind of small. All right. Okay. So I'm going to go to this guy down, this guy up. So are you guys seeing a terminal window with stuff running around on it?
Yep.
Okay. Now it's bouncing around. Okay. Whoops. It's bouncing around. So now you can see here, well, it's not tuned yet, but what is it picking up? Okay. Anyway, here we go. So you can see there's a serial message there, and I've forgotten what F stands for. But what it means is it didn't see any cones. If it's a 1, it means it saw 1 cone. If it saw 2 cones, it'd be 2. X is the X1C is a hex value for the the horizontal position of the cone, and the C 0, whatever that is.
A bit bigger, Doug, like Control Shift Plus?
You guys seeing that better? What are you seeing on? You
No, I think he wants the font bigger.
Font bigger. Control Shift Plus will make the font bigger.
Control Shift Plus. Oh, nice. I didn't know that. Woo! You learn something every day.
Make it smaller again.
Okay, all right. So you can see right now it's not seeing a code. So now I'm going to bring the cone up, and you can see it's seeing the cone, and you can see it's around 34C. So if I move it if you're looking at me being pinned, you can see that if I direct it in one direction, it's going off, and it's going to eventually, there it goes. It lost the cone. Now, if you come back through the field of view, and you can see it go off the other side. Well, there it is. I don't know what it's saying now.
Yeah, it went off the other side.
Yeah, it should. Okay, there it is. Okay. So anyway, so here, this is basically the same program I used last year for Robo Columbus. And so what it says is that any work that was done with the OD, with the proper drivers and everything, will work with this. So, and you can see here that it's popping it out. Well, look, right now it's really going fast. It's showing about 20 milliseconds per inference. I'll see if I step back, will it slow down or anything? No, everything looks good. There's something behind me that must be probably one of my decorations. But it is actually looking at the cone. It's trying to look for cone. It's not looking for a color. I don't know what it's picking up as number 2.
Ooh.
But anyway,
give a different colored cone.
Uh,
That'd be interesting to see.
yeah, let me see. That's a good question.
Hey, I'm not in that room and I'm not wearing an orange t-shirt. I'm just saying.
It's Doug's cone department.
Yeah, cone closet. Didn't mean to send you off on a wild goose chase there, Doug. So, if you can't find one, that's all right.
I don't think he can hear you.
Okay, I'll tell you what, Ray. You've given me a challenge. I'll have to spray paint one of these cones or something and try that out. But anyway, so that's my demo. I'll stop sharing. I'm real pleased with it.
So you used your training data from last year?
Am I still presenting? Oh, I got rid of it.
No, I don't think you're presenting anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I'm going to go. You can make me small again. All right. So there's a case of a reasonably priced and fast AI camera.
So, Doug,
And
how does that all work? Like,
well, okay. So what I do is I get a training set that I collect pictures of cones, all different types of cones, and last year or so, and then I use a site to bring them into the data set. I use RoboFlow.
Yeah,
And,
Bob talks about that in his presentation.
Yeah, right. And I use RoboFlow and bring them into that. And RoboFlow is very easy for you to set up your database, where you have to draw a box around your cone and train it to do that. Now, I think in the case of Bob, he's taking it one step further. You can use where it truly outlines the edge of the cone. Okay. In my particular data set, each cone is surrounded by a box. All right. And then once you do that, then RoboFlow will run you can pick a model and run against that. And then you can export those weights into OpenVNU, which then once it's on your machine, it's there until you change the model. So it's a nice little system. And the big problem, like I say, the big part of it is getting a proper data set. And, like when I talked to Bob earlier, I don't know if he'd used mine, but I used his. We kind of like swapped data sets to increase our size of data set. Though I haven't rerun the model with that. I'm still, because I plan to collect images through the summer. More.
Does the okay? So I think there's an assumption that the architecture of the what's the word for it? The neural net system would be the same between what RoboFlow trains on and what you run on your
I think that when you export it, I believe you export the model also.
Oh, I see. As far as the number and types of,
Yeah, it's not in the same format, but it's
Yeah.
so you don't have to run TensorFlow.
There are known models
Yeah,
with data and known structure and all that kind of good stuff that you can train on one system, export it, and they'll run on another.
right. And
Yeah, well-known model types.
Yeah,
and-
you're sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that Bob does his a little different. Bob specializes in maximizing the number of pictures that are exactly like what he's going to see in the contest. Okay, and he runs a little higher confidence level, where on mine, I tried to vary mine. Like, for example, Ray, mine does have different colored cones in the training model and all sorts of different stuff. So, angles are not the same. Otherwise, it's not always robot height. And all of that is to try to, what you're really trying to do is have it so the cone picks the cone because it looks like a cone. Otherwise, it's not the color. It's not always just the shape, but it's kind of a combination of this stuff. And you got to break up the background. You don't want, if the background's always the same, that it'll train on the background too. So you have to be careful about that. Even though yeah. So I'm just saying it's a little different approach, but it's probably very similar. I think in his case, he actually took his data set, ran it through TensorFlow to a specific model, and then transported it into Raspberry Pi. He was running it on the Raspberry Pi with just a Pi camera, I believe, at least initially. Now, I don't know what he's doing now, but he had talked about getting an OAK-D Lite. The OAK-D, he ran into issues where his inference was not as fast. On this thing, we're talking 17, 20 milliseconds and a frame rate of 30 or so. He was getting a lot slower than that. But that's because you're getting all that acceleration from the Movidius chips.
Yeah, last I heard he was using a Jetson, but he may decide to switch to an OAK-D once he sees what the performance is like. It's going to be, the OAK-D is going to give pretty close to the same performance as a Jetson without all the hassle.
Right, exactly, or cost.
Yeah.
And like I say, so the big thing, the OAK-D is a little, I wouldn't put the OAK-D on a robot. I might use the OAK-D Lite, all right, and I probably would use the fixed focus OAK-D Lite. But if you're not utilizing the depth data, okay, because the OAK-D Lite has a depth camera in it, so you can see how far everything is too. I could show you that if you wanted to see it, but I'd have to set it up. So this is essentially an OAK-D Lite with the stereo camera stripped off, and it's $100.
Yeah, Luxonis, the company that makes the OAK-D Lite, also makes a camera almost, it's not the same form factor as this, but it's pretty much identical specs for the same price. It's a small single camera thing with the same processor in it.
Oh, that's what this is made by.
Yeah, exactly. That one's designed for a Raspberry Pi. The one that Luxonis sells is just a USB one, so you can plug it into anything.
Yeah. So.
When you use the word model, does that include the weights for each element as well as the configuration?
Well, that's what you, okay. The model, think of the model as sort of the neural network.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You don't know what the weights are. Now, there's some models where you only train the back end, some that you train it through the whole thing. But which way you do it, so the model is kind of like the structure. The weights are what that structure interprets your data set. Okay. So
what you export from RoboFlow is both of those things.
I believe so, yeah. Well, I know it does the weights, and I'm pretty sure it has to do the model because there's a gazillion models.
All right, thanks. That answered my question.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I just thought it's real. 4 months ago, I could only tell you that it was planned, but now I got one. So I'm playing with this. I'm not sure it'll be in my rover. It might be on my rover. Who knows? I haven't seen anything that's different enough since, before I wasn't using the depth camera. And so we'll see. That's it.
Thanks, Doug. Doug D was next up in the list.
So, y'all may recall that I was working on my steampunk stuff.
Yeah.
Most of you realize that that's where I was last weekend. So let me see if I remember how to share my screen. It's not turn off camera. Entire screen. That's just changed since the last time I did it. I'm going to share, hopefully. And I'm going to, okay. You should be seeing my main screen right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's my dicomio, which means be an example to others in case you're wondering. And the reason I'm sharing this screen is because I have video and pictures. Okay, so here is me getting my outfit on. I think you can see that. You can see Robo-Dog is attached to the armor piece my wife made me, my beautiful wife here helping me strap in. And so Robo-Dog is basically a backpack. You can see his head up there. He's not real steampunkish. I was happy just to get him running. And let's see what other picture I had here. This is my wife and I posing in front of the Railroad Museum so we could put a geofix on where we were. Happy campers getting ready to go show ourselves off. And let's see what else we got here. Here's me put the robot on the ground. And I got my little controller in my hand there. And I'm getting ready to all these people around. I'm in this little patio that's right in the middle of everybody. So my adrenaline is up a bit. And you'll see videos of that in a moment. And let's see. I have some other pictures here that'll be kind of the second part of my comments, but I'm not going to show them yet. So here, I'm not sure if the sound will come across, but the sound's not important. There's Robo-Dog actually running. Unfortunately, forwards and backwards, because you may or may not be able to tell. I'm trying to turn that puppy and he won't turn. They're not running good on that rough surface. So I can run him forwards and backwards. Yay! Better than nothing, but still a little embarrassing. not totally embarrassing because nobody there knew what the problem was I was having.
4663.
And here's starts off looking very similar. But now I've decided somebody's asked me or said, "Oh, cool thing," and I'm saying, "Yeah, thanks." Now I'm going to manually turn it because I couldn't get the turn left and turn right under robot control. So I have video proof it actually worked. There it goes. Yay! And then this is a real short clip here. My wife tried to walk around me so she could get. Here's their little teacup racers coming out to play with RoboDog. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's my friend Howard there in his get up. And this tent here is the teacup racing thing. And it's basically a bunch of RC cars that they run through a course. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But any questions so far on the demo of RoboDog?
What is the conference or show that you're at, Doug?
This is the Galveston Steampunk Festival. This is the Railroad Museum that's at the end of the Strand, if you know where the Strand is.
Thank you.
So there's not a lot of pictures. There's a bunch of people in real wild costumes. Mine's pretty basic, so is Howard's. But some of them get pretty wild, and I didn't take pictures of that because if you're into steampunk, you know what that is. But then I wanted to show pictures of the teacup race. And let's see, get this out of the way so it's not all confusing. Here's the teacup race course, and it's basically an RC thing. They come down here, try not to knock over the stands, go up and over this, which was amazingly difficult for most of their little race cars. Didn't have the power to really ump up there. And then they went over this bridge, which had these pretty big bumps, and almost all of them got knocked off. I think 2 out of 15 cars or so made it across. So that was just an interesting thing. My wife is going to get into robots and RC cars so that she can play that next week, or not next week, but next year. And you can start to see some of the other costumes around here that people had on. Yeah, let's see. Let's get rid of that. Oops. I was going to get rid of it, but instead I maximized it. And then here's a side view of that ramp. I was trying to make myself an idea of how to recreate it so that I could try to get my little robo car to go up and over that. And that being said, one last little tidbit is, I know somebody's going to like this. It wasn't all cars. They had leg things too. Recognize the orthopod? Somebody was making that. I'm not sure who it was. I think he may not be here today. But the orthopod had a lot of trouble when he got up to the ramp. This little thing came loose and he could not get off of it. Like the traction of his legs kept moving the piece of paper under him. He could not get off of it. And eventually they got him off of it, and he tumbles over a lot going up this. I'm not going to make you watch the whole video because he was very awkward looking. But
it looks very top heavy with very slippery feet.
And part of the problem, I'm going to stop sharing. Part of the problem with that teacup race that they were doing is that the course is different every time, and you don't know what it is until you get there. So they couldn't optimize for that ramp or that bumpy thing to go across. They just had to drive, and over half the people, I think, were mere novices at it. And one lady had never actually driven her car. That was how novice they were. Sort of like me. I forget to practice all this time I'm supposed to practice, and I don't. And,
seems like tank treads would work well on that sort of course.
You would think so.
I'll show you guys a car that would work phenomenal on a course like that, if you want to see it.
Show me.
All right, start.
No, I actually did run, didn't I? Yeah.
Thank you, Doug.
one last thing before I'm done. This is actually the first robot kit that I got. Is a little car. That's what my wife is going to convert to try to compete in that next year.
Mhm.
It's got those little yellow motors, no encoders. It's 4-wheel drive, so you do the skid steering to steer it. There's my light sensors. I was trying to do line following. I never really got very good at it. I'll give up my time to the next person.
I think John was going to show us a robot he thought would do good on that.
Well, it's not a robot, to be clear. But if you're starting from RC cars, then
yeah, rock crawling and all that. I had a large car.
This is about an 18th. This is about a 1/18th scale.
Yeah,
it's got a 6-inch wheelbase.
Right. So that would not have been legal because they're limited to 30 centimeters. You have to fit.
No, this is smaller. This
okay.
is 6-inch wheelbase, like
Okay.
15
Well,
centimeter
that would
wheelbase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be easy to dress up with steampunk stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's a completely custom build that I did.
Yeah. For that teacup race, the only requirement is you had to strap a teacup to the top or a teapot to the top of it.
Yeah.
Didn't have to be steampunkish.
Yeah.
So I got something for Doug D actually.
Okay, go for it.
In the chat, I just posted a link to something called zerotier.com.
Yeah.
You were doing a telepresence robot at one point. I don't know if you're still interested in doing. If you can get a device on there that can do a VPN, this Zero Tier is a free VPN for up to 25 units, and you can set your own network. So the idea was that your device, wherever it is on the planet, if it can get an IP address, VPN connect itself up to the Zero Tier VPN, then whatever your server device is out there on the way up, whatever it is, and it connects to that same network device. And now you've got a way to go behind firewalls and all that other kind of stuff. Of course, anybody else here, if you want to do that thing to your own house, you can do that. I came across, I was reminded of Zero Tier not too long ago, like a couple days, but we use it extensively as a proof of concept. We're dealing with Raspberry Pis and RFID scanners and other things where we had no idea what kind of security somebody was going to have in their million-square-foot warehouse, and we need to get access all over the place. And so that's the solution that was come up with, and that's what we're using. I did a bunch of extra routing and a bunch of other fun things, but still changing SSH to various ports for different things, kind of deal. But we were able to then get behind and monitor and administrate those Raspberry Pis when we were doing testing and modifying stuff. So it worked really well, and it was good enough. It was good enough for sending data back and forth. Is it going to be good enough bandwidth? There might be some bandwidth charges in there. I haven't looked at that. But is it good enough to send data back and forth, or how much? I don't know. But it's certainly a capable service, and especially the cost is good for proof of concept. And if you want to pay something for it, I don't know what it is to pay for it, but
cool.
It wouldn't be too crazy. But it is a different outlook that you've looked at before, and there may be nothing coming out of this. But I saw that, I thought of you, and since you were on the screen, I'd bring it up and post a link.
You thought of me.
Zero Tier doesn't charge bandwidth, and most of the bandwidth goes direct peer to peer. It's not
So it sounds
doesn't have to be routed through their servers.
Yeah,
kind of like a combination of VNC and a.
Well, this is not a VNC thing. This is a VPN sort of thing.
Right.
And whatever this is the transport layer, not the application layer, right? So
it lets you create a software-defined network that spans across multiple physical networks, and you generally don't have to do any gateway router configuration for it, and it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, and you can set it up so literally it's whatever it looks like your local network that you're talking to, but it could be on the other side of the planet. once you got things logged into the right places.
I have saved my note to keep this in my pile. Thanks.
Okay.
Things like getting my robot on a cellular network, which was not connected to anything else, and my laptop on maybe my home network. It sounds like this is the sort of thing that would do that.
That is suspiciously very, that's very, 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 I can't really say I've got an NDA going on in a lawsuit somewhere from a couple of years ago, still probably in place someplace that I'm not a party of, but I have information for. So I can't tell you exactly what we did, but I can tell you that seems very, very similar there, Paul, of what was going on. And that's how we got past a lot of stuff because, you know, we don't know what kind of wacky thing somebody's going to make their network in their warehouse is going to be. So we need to have an independent thing. And we may or may not, if it use some kind of wireless technology, they may end in, you know, it may be rhyme with cellular, maybe. So there you go.
Does it run on all different types of platforms like Raspberry Pis?
Yep. Raspberry Pis are what we're using. You can also plug this into your Windows device if you want to. It's got a bunch of different platforms that run on top of it. And as long as you're not going over 25 units, it's free. I mean, you know, you get over that, well, you know, hopefully you're making a little money to pay for it. But you got 25 VPN nodes out there, Paul. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing way more than I'm going to do with it. I'll tell you that.
You're probably not going to run it over a LoRa link or anything like that, because
Probably not.
It's a full TCP/IP stack, basically.
Yeah. Hey, what?
John, did you finish what you were
No, that was just sort of an aside. So wanted to talk a bit about this. Doug P. and I were chatting about this in Discord, and basically he had some questions about how to do the ESP Now stuff and how to integrate that in. And I've done sort of a demo implementation of that and pushed it to GitHub, and you can find a link to that in Discord. But I was thinking it might be useful to do a not an official presentation on a Saturday meeting kind of thing. I want to do that later in the summer once I've got this working with the robot and you know, can actually demo something and have a slideshow set up and all that jazz. But if people want a 1 or 2 hour session where I go over, you know, how to actually use this stuff, like how to write the Python code that runs on this, you know, I'm sort of amenable to that if people are interested.
Yeah, I'd be interested too, John.
So this coming weekend happens to be, I don't know how it works out for you guys, but it happens to be a weekend that I'm on Saturday and, well, mainly on Saturday, available pretty much all, you know, late morning and all afternoon. My wife is going to be doing a course in Toronto, and I'm staying at an Airbnb, and I have nothing to do other than work on robotics stuff. So if people are interested, we can set up something on Saturday, or we can try sometime past that if you're not available then.
How should we contact you?
Discord's the easiest way.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, John. So Saturday, you're saying in the afternoon is when you're really looking as the time that you could do.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Keeping in mind that I'm in Eastern Daylight Time and not Central Time like most of you guys.
Okay.
So, but I'm available from basically around 10 a.m. my time until around 6 p.m. my time, which is the equivalent of like 9 to 5 for you guys.
You raised your hand. Was that to indicate you're interested, or did you want to say something?
You're muted.
Put me in the queue somewhere. Please.
Yeah, so we can organize something on Discord if people are interested and work out a time and all that jazz. And I can sit down for a couple hours and go through, give an example of how to code, how all these parts and pieces work in terms of the software architecture.
Yeah.
Why don't we pick a channel like the meeting? How about the hash meeting channel?
Yeah, that works.
And let's congregate on the Discord. Does anyone who's interested have access to the Discord? Is there anyone who does not that's interested that does not have an invitation or an account on the Discord server?
I need an invitation.
Let me make an invitation and post it real quick in the chat.
Can John also post his handle so I can find him?
It's John.
Oh, okay. But doesn't it usually have a four-digit number that I need?
It might. I don't know. I post a lot in there, and I have some of my own channels and stuff. So you'll find me.
His name on the channel. His name on the channel is John, but his username in Discord has a the hashtag 4-digit numbers to keep you unique across a whole bunch of stuff, right? That's not.
Yeah, it's John1211 if you want to get really specific. But
Okay.
Yeah, you don't need that extra thing.
I'm pretty sure I'm the only John on that channel right now, at least spelled that way. Yeah, so I'm. Yeah, how to program it specifically.
So, John,
I'm fine with that. Yep, more the merrier.
so wouldn't this be better as like a meeting? So, I mean, are we going to be trying to learn, how are you going to present, I guess, John?
I'm basically planning on just sharing my, doing a meet like this, or we can do it on Discord. Probably be easier to just do it on Discord. And because you can do video, audio, chat on Discord, and I can share my screen and all that stuff. So
sounds good.
Yeah, you can do meetings like this on Discord. I don't know if their video meeting technology is as good as Google's, and if it becomes a problem, well, then I'll make a Google Meet thing, and we can post a link, and everybody can join that.
Yeah, are you gonna record it just for? That would be really nice too to have. Right, I understand that.
I can probably. I mean, I'm running on a Linux laptop, so I can probably set up something in the background to do recording. But I'll have to look into that because I've never done that with Discord.
Okay.
What did you say? 1 Eastern? 1 p.m. Eastern?
I said sometime between like 9 to 5 your time, Central time. So it preferably earlier, not 5. Like 5 is kind of the end time when I have to get off, kind of thing. So it would have to start like say between 9 and 2 or something like that to give us enough time.
Okay.
Thanks, John. That's a real generous offer you're making, and I think there'll be quite a lot of people interested, and I'm certainly interested. Thank you.
Yeah. I looked at the normal meetings and they look pretty busy up until like August or whatever. So I don't want to wait that. I mean, I am going to do a formal presentation on this, but like I said, I want to have it working with my robot and controlling and all that stuff before I get to that point anyway. So, you can book me tentatively for a. I don't know when it is in August, and I don't know what my schedule looks like right now in August either. So yeah, what's the date in August? Saturday, 1, 2, 3, the 27th. No, that's April. Never mind. May, June, July, August. That would be the 24th. Yeah, I mean, I don't currently have anything going on, but that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Paul, I don't know if you were interested in cellular modules, but it's the TSIM 7080S3. You can do like GSM, GPRS connections. SIM card through T-Mobile costs like $5 a month for 300 megabytes of data. It's got an ESP32 on it. It's got the SIM 7080 on it. So it's even got a battery holder on the back for a 3.7 volt lithium. It does battery charging.
What's the name of that board again?
It's TSIM 7080-S3. I don't know if you can. It's not even focus.
S3. TSIM 7080.
Yeah. So it's got a connection for a camera on it. It's got.
Oh, it's a LilyGo. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I want to say it's like under $40, maybe closer to 30. I forget what the exact price is. But comes with antennas, comes with a battery cable, so you can charge the battery through, like a USB charger or a solar panel charger. Can do. It's got a GSM unit on it, so you can get GSM coordinates out of it for location of where it is. It comes with an active GSM antenna and a couple different antennas that you can experiment with. Works pretty good. Random Nerd tutorial has a really good app note for it. So anyway, so if you're looking for something like that. Through like GSM or a GPRS.
It would give you a TCP. I mean, they're going to put a TCP stack in front of it, so it's going to look just like Wi-Fi to the board, like to the ESP32. It's going to look like you're connected to a Wi-Fi network, except it's not.
It's cellular. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. A lot of stuff on a board for not much money, and that's. The 7080 works in the United States. There's other modules that it's the 7000 series, but they're not made to work with, U.S. carriers. Are made to work.
Yeah, the one that I linked is the G model, which is global.
Yeah. Actually, this is. Yeah, actually, this is the 7080G. It doesn't say it on
the G. The G stands for global.
Yeah.
So it'll work anywhere. It looks like.
Sure.
No worries. Just a quick one. I I've mentioned in the past that I had stripped down an early generation Roomba to turn into a robot. And it was also my excuse to move up to a little more powerful processor, a 32-bit Pico. I'm going to share some pictures here. So I put together a small board to provide me with some mechanism to experiment with Raspberry Pi Pico and to mount in this robot as its brain, along with some other more robot-specific boards that will control the robot, act as an interface. So this is pretty basic stuff, and it lets me do something non-trivial in the process of experimenting with the Pico and experimenting with Thani, which is the development environment that I've picked. Now, in the course of putting together this proto board, I, of course, had to pay a lot of attention to the pinout on the Pico, which looked obvious at the time. However, it turns out that since I was enthusiastic about Picos, once I started to put one on a breadboard, I thought if one is good, then many would be better. So I bought some more, not realizing, having bought them a couple of times from AliExpress, that not all Picos are the same. So here are 3 different ones that I happen to have in my collection. These are top views and bottom views. They look kind of like they should have the same pinout as a standard Raspberry Pi Pico, but it turns out they don't. So I put together a spreadsheet that kind of gives you a feeling for the differences in which functions are mapped to which physical pins on these devices. The color-coded cells indicate that there are pins on that particular device that are not the same as on a standard Raspberry Pi Pico. The Raspberry Pi Pico is the second from the left column with no orange blocks in it. And all of the others have at least a couple of differences. Fortunately, the V-bus and the bottom ground pin are the same. But that can't be said for many of the other pins on some of these. So just a word to the wise, if you're picking up Raspberry Pi Picos and you're getting them from various AliExpress vendors, there are quite a few variants that don't comply with the Raspberry Pi Pico pinouts. So if you're making up a board to hold them, you'll want to check very carefully what the pinouts actually are. So that was my only comment. I am, of course, having spent many years working with the Arduino development environment, I have a whole new set of habits to build and a whole new set of thinking to go through, because the environment that you get libraries from is so different and relatively immature for MicroPython running on a Pico. I have a lot to learn and a lot of research to do, and I'm still struggling with what does it really take to get a non-trivial main program to run, or main plus some modules to run. So I'm still learning that process. We'll see how it goes.
If you want to learn some, come to the thing on Saturday if you can, because it's MicroPython. I mean, it's on an ESP32, but it runs exactly the same as it runs, with the exception of the ESP Now stuff. Okay. I could just as easily run it on a 2040.
Okay. I decided to go with the Raspberry Pi Picos for this step upwards, although you may notice that the little object to the left of the display is an ESP3201, since my Pico does not have wireless. And I thought wireless would be fun to play with. So this has them both in there.
Yeah. And if you want to play with some smaller, these are a couple Raspberry Pi Pico type boards. Right. Same processor, just a much smaller. These are like 7x7 form factor. And then this one's another one that I have a bunch of. They're like $5 each, these ones. Right. From Ali.
Yeah, those are my favorite, John.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. If anyone has advice on sources of libraries for Picos in MicroPython, I'd certainly like to hear about it. I know about PyPy.
Talk to me.
Okay, I will. It's very frustrating when you're used to just every time you look, there's something available for Arduinos, but it's hard to find them for Picos. And of course, it's a different language now as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you can always run the Picos on Arduino C.
And I was wondering, except part of this, Mike, is an excuse to learn MicroPython as well.
Oh,
I
okay.
like the intent.
Yeah.
I mean, the facility of saying, here's the text, push this button, and it runs. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
It is really cool. And yeah, I mean, I've been running MicroPython for like 9 years, so I can help you with some of that.
John, thank you. I will check.
Hey, Tom, I accidentally washed a Romba in the laundry, and this is what happened to it. It shrunk down to almost nothing. So, you know.
Well, if I break the one that I took apart badly, I have several more in my junk box.
Yeah, I got this on AliExpress for $3.47, and basically it has 2 brushes, and it's got like kind of a toy mechanism where if it gets caught, this shifts around and makes the thing head off in a different direction. And it does have a little suction port here. There's no brush, no other brushes like a beater brush, like in a Roomba. And it has this cloth that just kind of gets dragged on the ground. That's the mopping function. So,
$3, right?
Yeah, $3.47, And it even works. I put it on my kitchen floor and let it roam around, and got a rechargeable battery. So, anyway, I thought you might get a kick out of that.
It's certainly worth it, if only for the parts value.
Oh, yeah. Very cheap entertainment, Kept me busy for like a half hour.
Is it called a Roomba Pico?
I think it's just called a sweeping robot. I don't know if you can see that or not. Right there. But that's the little, little bin is where the fan is. It's got a little screen over it, and all the you can probably see the little slit on the bottom.
Looks fun.
Yep.
Love it.
Had to see what made it tick, so
Okay. Are you done, Tom?
Yes, I am.
Next in the list, Mike.
Oh, me? Mike, me? Okay, so I've been doing different things, and one of the things I did is I decided I wanted to retrain, or not train, but come up with a better orange blob detection. And so I opened up OpenMV because I'm using the OpenMV camera, and I said, "Oh, you need to upgrade." So I upgraded. So so everything seemed to work. I seemed to be getting good things, but now for some reason when I power my robot on and the pipe comes up and all the modules come up, like the OpenMV comes up, and then I run ROS, it doesn't connect to the OpenMV anymore until I pull out the USB cable from the Pi and plug it back in, and then restart ROS, relaunch ROS, and it starts running again.
I would check the OpenMV. I mean, it's an instant on machine, right? Because it's running on a Cortex M7 or something.
Yeah,
and it probably starts dumping stuff to the serial port like within a few milliseconds of it starting up. So you may want to look at the coding that's on it and change it so that it you have to send it a message before it starts dumping stuff down.
Well, I can't send messages to the OpenMV to my camera over the USB serial port.
Why can't you?
I am not sure. It's a new camera with a new processor, and for some reason it doesn't have all the full features of what can be done.
Okay, I mean it's probably running MicroPython because all.
It's running MicroPython, yeah.
Yeah, all the OpenMV stuff's running MicroPython, and it's
but there's a library for that opens up a lot of stuff that you can do, but it's not available for my camera. I'm the most recent. That's why I'm just going to get the most recent, latest, and greatest camera, and it doesn't have the library that I need to have a good two-way communication. So now it just uses the print statement, and I can't find any other thing on the OpenMV to manipulate it. So,
do you think it could be filling up like a serial buffer on the Raspberry Pi side or something?
I don't think so, because it's not running for too long. Like once I get it running, if I stop ROS from servicing it for a long time, then I have similar issues. But it has to be a really long time. But this one here is like within minutes of it coming up, and then I start ROS. It says I can't find the OpenMV port until I power cycle the OpenMV camera, and then it says, "Oh, I can find it now." Yeah, and it's
you're not running ROS as root, are you? Like with sudo or?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I mean, so it was working great until I did an upgrade. Well, it wasn't working great, but it was working better before I did an upgrade. And so now it's like, what changed?
Well, the UDEV rules would have changed for the new camera, because if it's a different processor on it and stuff, then it's going to look like a different USB device. Although if you can plug it in with ROS running, it may be that it doesn't know where to look.
It knows where to look, and basically I gotta Control C and take ROS down, and then unplug it and plug it back in, and then when the node starts up, the node starts up the serial interface, and it can find it, but it couldn't find it when I just powered up the Raspberry Pi and the camera, and then connected to it with SSH, and then started the ROS. It can't find it then, even though I start ROS over and over again.
Are you getting an error message from ROS?
Yeah, it says it can't open up the serial port, and then I unplug the USB cable, plug it back in, start ROS back up, and it finds it perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, does it say the serial port, or does it say /dev/tty something or other?
I don't remember the exact message, but it basically I'm using by ID. So basically I say, open up the serial port by ID, and ID is a really long string. So,
right.
So
and did you update that when you put the new camera in? Because like I said, it's going to have a different ID.
It's the same camera. I just upgraded the firmware.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then if I, like I said, cycle the power and then run ROS again, it can find that serial interface. Yeah. Oh well, so that's just an irritant.
I wonder if you could. They have a forum that you can, just like state problems or issues that you're having, right, on the OpenMV website, right?
Yeah, it's hard to use, but this is probably at the point where I need to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They probably have a Discord too.
Yeah.
Robot Stack Exchange is where you go with ROS problems. This sounds more like a ROS issue in terms of ROS not being able to find the camera.
Well, I'm just saying if I cycle power on the camera before I start ROS, then everything's fine. Yeah. And then I can cycle ROS on and off, Control C, start it back up, recompile, make some code changes. But the first time after I power up the robot and the Pi powers up, and then I connect to it and start ROS, it doesn't work. And the second, if I try ROS again, like Control C and try it again, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Same message, can't find it. Then I pull out the USB cable on the camera and plug it back in, and everything starts working until I power everything down again.
But the serial port must be
Yeah, he's doing by ID, so it's a little bit different than what you would normally do.
Right. Yeah.
But
I guess at this point I should pull out Minicom and see if it's detecting.
yeah, I think it should still show up in /dev, regardless of how you're doing it. So you can always do an ls/dev and look for that particular entry.
Something's ringing a bell that, like a long time ago, I had problems where I was trying to configure the dev device that a particular USB device would show up on using using the what's it called, the file that you configure the devices to USB IDs.
UDEV?
Yeah, using the UDEV rules, and I observed that it wouldn't work on boot, but it would work if I replugged it.
Right. Because everything was working fine, but on boot, I mean, I'd start ROS up, and it would find the camera module, and then when I did the upgrade, it stopped finding it. Oh, so update the OpenMV. So yeah. So it's a weird corner case mystery. But I think you're right. I should look into it more. I've just been going, this is irritating. Unplug the cable, plug it back in, and I'm happy. I need to sit back and power up the Pi and see if it's actually there.
Yeah, when I plug in my OpenMV cam to Linux, I get an entry in /dev called OpenMV cam, which points to TTY-ACM0
right.
in this case.
Yeah,
that's not the by ID thing. That's something else.
Oh, okay. Oh, I use by ID. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll debug that some more. And I opened up the OpenMV software and found a tool in it to help tune the blob. It has a way to make all the adjustments for the thresholds of the blob color detection. And so I played with those knobs and came up with one that works pretty good. Yeah. I haven't had to resort or tried to resort to the multiple threshold lists. There's a threshold list that has the min and the max for the L, A, and B color scheme, and I can't remember what that means again, but it's not RGB. Right.
Yeah, there's like 100 or so different formats that you can represent video with. It's amazing that they'd have that many.
Yeah, OpenMV uses the LAB, so they had a tool.
If you're interested, sorry, I was going to say, if you're interested in finding a path to your device, I have what I use. Basically, it's mapped on startup, and so I'll map a USB to like TTY USB dash motors, and as long as my motor control board is always plugged into that same port, it always comes up as that link, and you can reference that in. I've done it in ROS before. I've done it in Arduino.
Yeah, you can also use the UDEV tool from like Bash or whatever to get the basically the VID and the PID of the device and figure out which port it's on from that, and then that gives you the actual Unix port /dev/TTY whatever that.
Yeah, but the by ID has been working perfectly for months. So
yeah, so what you want to do is just do an ls/dev/serial/by-id, and and see
Mhm.
when you plug it in the first time, see it like when Ross can't find it, see if it's
Yeah.
actually there, because that's where it'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to step back and do that instead of gnashing my teeth. Yeah. So those are two of the things. Some of the other ones I worked on is I hooked up my battery monitor and gave it a topic for Ross, so I can see it. And I'm not sure how I would use it. I mean, I know you can use it for, okay, you're running out of power. Now what do you do? But it works pretty good. It's an INA 218. It's the voltage and current.
Yeah, that's one of the ones to use.
Yeah, it's great. And I also rehooked up my IMU to see if it's better. And so I tuned it in, turning off some functions and stuff, and it seems to be stable. So that's pretty good. And then when I did the four corner, my pseudo test for the four corner, it looks like it can go around and have about 5 centimeter accuracy when it goes around the loop. But I also have obstacle avoidance, and when I put obstacles in the way of it and have it avoid them, the error grows really big because I guess it's doing a lot of turning and stuff. And so when you turn, then the odometry drifts a lot. But if I just turn, go straight for a long time, then turn, go straight for a long time, turn, go straight, then the odometry didn't seem to drift that much. So I might have a way to do four corner. So and I think the IMU might have made it a little better, but didn't make it any worse. So that's good. So and then my last thing is I finally installed Plot Juggler so I could see what's going on. And it's great. It's a great tool. I'm able to see a lot of insights into stuff like drifting, IMU drifting and stuff, or not, odometry drifting and things like that. But my setup is I have the Pi with a Wi-Fi connection, and it doesn't have any desktop. I try to keep it real simple, like a server variety. And then I have a Linux machine that connects to it, and it runs. They both run ROS, and I run I was running the Plot Juggler on the development machine, and it seemed to work really good. But somehow it uses up 150% of a CPU, just plotting out stuff from ROS topics, and then somehow that affects the performance of my robot. And the robot goes nuts because something is just bogging down all of its communications channels. So hooking up the robot running ROS to the development machine running ROS with something that's really bogging down the development machine can affect the robot. I was surprised. Or not shocked, but surprised. Yeah. So, but Plot Juggler is great, except running real time, I don't know what's with it. Oh well. I'm selecting 4 or so. Yeah. 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 And then Ross on the robot puts out messages going, "Oh, your frame rate's too slow."
Yeah, because you're basically increasing the amount of network traffic the Raspberry Pi has to push all the time. Right? Because it's got to push that data from your robot to that machine now.
Yeah.
While it's doing everything else.
Right.
And this is a problem. I mean, it's a problem with ROS. It's a problem with any high-level protocol that you get. Just because it's there doesn't mean you can use it without any consequences.
Okay. Well, this is the consequences.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure why plot juggler uses so much CPU just to plot some few measly lines, but it's just weird. So it explains some of my issues. So if I was in competition, I definitely wouldn't have my development machine connected this way. Right. I'd have the robot just run independently.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing you can do is, of course, log all of that stuff locally on the robot and then look at it after the fact.
Yeah, that's a way to do it, but it's more fun to watch it in real time. But you're right. If I really had to do it, I could do it that way. I haven't done it that way yet.
Packets are going out there and they're getting apps back and all that. And if you keep the topics that matter to the robot on the robot and use a monitor on the robot to just push a copy of the one of 4 topics if you want, you could, I don't know if it would do any good, but it's a thought.
Does it use UDP for that?
That's a kind of a difficult question to answer because yes, DDS, ROS2 is based on DDS, which is built on top of UDP, but it's not fire and forget. Depending on the QoS it will come back and add packets to provide guaranteed delivery. So depending, and normally you can adjust the QoS effort for guaranteed delivery. It's all built on top of UDP, but it has the ACKs and the retry stuff for guaranteed delivery. And I think guaranteed delivery is a default. So that would tend to work its way back into the comms on the robot.
Yeah, so if there's like a publish and a subscribe on the Pi, it works great by itself, but then if I take a leg of that and send it over the Wi-Fi to this development machine that's overloaded, then it can slow the whole. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you could lose a lot of packets and don't care. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you'd want to use something like UDP or this thing that Paul's talking about in a mode where it's not acking, because you should really never act log stuff anyway.
Okay, well, that's sort of the what I've been working on this week. Yeah, I mean, they're very important packets like odometry and stuff, and the transforms when it's trying to track an object. But yeah, they're important. Yeah, internally.
But the whole idea of sending them is that the system would be tolerant of losing it.
Yeah. You're not changing how the robot works internally. You're changing how you're sending the data off to this other computer so it can graph it, and you're making it so your Raspberry Pi doesn't have to wait for that other computer to be available when you're doing that.
Right. So, yeah. so everything works strange. I killed Plot Juggler and everything works fine. So yeah. Crazy. All right. All right.
All right. So I think I mentioned last time that right now I'm working on the app for the coffee robot. So to select and order the coffees for the robot. And I've got something that I can demo for the menu right now. 1 second. Okay. All right. Can you all see the simulation I should have displayed? Oh. All right. There we go. Okay. So this I'm using Flutter to make this app, and right now this is just the menu. So you've got what I'd have is the more traditional coffees. So the your lattes and mochas and stuff, and then whatever you've ordered recently from the robot, and then your favorite coffees that I've customized for the robot and stuff like that. And you can scroll through here, and it loops back. And what I'm trying to have it do is have it where it will display the amount of coffee, the amount of syrup, and the amount of steamed milk and froth or hot water and all that are in the coffees. And that's about all I've got accomplished so far. What I'm trying to have it do now is when I click expand, it will expand to have just the standards section and then just the recent section or just the favorite section, and then move on from there. But that's about it for now.
Yeah. Are you expanding it to use PyDog to deliver the coffee yet?
That should be hopefully eventually I'll do that. Yeah, that would be fun.
What are we looking at here, Jack? I mean, I see it's a phone, but what's the software framework that you're running?
So this is just a simulator for a Pixel, and then it's like I said, I'm using Flutter to develop the app. So for right now, would just be the Android version. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Flutter's been pretty nice. I actually just made another app, if you all want to see it real quick. Oh dear. Hold on, my computer's freezing up.
Does everybody know what Flutter is when he says Flutter?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have explained that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I thought that was probably the real question I was anticipating.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. That so you know how not too long ago when you're making an app, you used to have to make one app for iOS, one app for Android, and all that. Well, Flutter is a nice way of programming it so that then when you're ready, it will assemble it to where it's already made the iOS app and it's already made the Android app. And then Flutter, so it's either Flutter or React Native, and then I've been choosing Flutter since it seems like people are slowly moving to Flutter over React Native. And Flutter also seems to be a little easier for getting it to switch between different size screens and stuff. And it's been a lot easier. But I'll show you another app I made. This one's a desktop app currently, but I'm also trying to get it to work on Android for just to build up my resume a little.
Yeah, we call it RDD, resume-driven design.
Yes,
it's a common thing to do. I do it all the time.
All right, yeah. But this is something that I've always wanted because I don't feel there's any to-do list that organizes it in this way, where I wanted to have a to-do list that was in a queue. So at the very top, that's the #1 thing that's recommended for you. So then once you complete that, then it goes down to the next item. And if you add a new item on, so then it saves it right to the bottom. But a new thing I've added is now I can click and drag it to the top, and then that will be the top item. And then can also edit it if you slide to the right, or delete it if you slide to the left. And then you can have multiple keys there as well that you can switch between. But that's about it. If there's any questions.
So what's the okay now I know now I understand what Flutter is.
Mhm.
And you showed a GUI here for the coffee robot. How is the output of your app to be connected to the electrical and mechanics and the software stack that will operate on the robot?
Not 100% sure yet. What I'm thinking is I know there's certain services through Amazon that I haven't narrowed down exactly which one I'm wanting to use yet, but it should hopefully be able to have it to where it will connect me from my app through the internet to then what I'm planning to have is a Raspberry Pi connected to the internet that would communicate with my robot.
Okay. So the app is intended to communicate to a Raspberry Pi.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know that net zero thing you got going on there, Raspberry Pi? I'm just.
I'm thinking.
Hey, Paul, didn't you have on that remote sprinkler irrigation thing you did across the world? Didn't you use some back-end cloud framework to connect your app to the hardware?
I did. I used an ESP32 running the Arduino framework, publishing MQTT messages to AWS.
Oh.
And then AWS has an IoT module that can accept that you can configure to accept MQTT packets and then forward them on into S3 buckets and analysis backends.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you know, Zach, MQTT, that's a well-known message passing, and if you've got some kind of hub to do that, it's lightweight, passes through them. Your Raspberry Pi, you should be able to write a background process to be able to get that stuff and do all kinds of stuff. It's lightweight and it works really good, and it's way configurable, and it is the it's not the up and comer necessarily, but it's before when it's been out a while. But almost every IoT thing I run out in the wild in an industrial sense, if they're not using Modbus or Skater or something already, it's going to be MQTT. They're doing stuff in that. So, you know, resume-driven design. Here you go.
Yeah.
It would be a good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Help.
Might have
What
Sorry.
facilities do you have in an app that's written under a framework like Flutter to do things like TCP/IP messages, MQTT, or whatever?
I haven't done a lot of research on that part yet, but imagine there's some library. I'm not really sure yet.
Just a quick search. So we use Flutter at my company now. It's the right once target everywhere source for our caregiver app. So we actually write the app once, and then they have the DevOps set up so that you push the button and it makes an iOS app, an Android app, and it publishes to a browser server. And I guess the language is called Dart, but it's like any other language. But there are, just a quick search shows that there's MQTT clients for Dart and shows how to implement MQTT in Flutter.
Nice.
Now we use it, we just use strict HTTP calls. So any API to any cloud server that uses MQTT, you can do it that way. And we also use Firebase push messaging. So if you have, like Jack, if for whatever reason you don't want to have a socket that stays open where you just send bytes back and forth. If you want to have your app sit there and listen or register, subscribe to some messages, it doesn't have to be MQTT. You could use like Firebase messaging, and Google will just appear on you have a listener listening for it. And
Yeah, it's really cool when it happens too, isn't it, Carl?
it's great when it works.
Magically, I get messages and I get to act on them. It's awesome.
It doesn't always work, but it's great when it works.
Yeah.
So a quick question.
All right.
My ears aren't as good as they used to be. NTTP? Like
No.
MQTT.
Michael Query Tom.
Okay, thanks.
What was the name of the you said something like Dart is either connected to or part of Flutter, and somehow it's in MQTT?
Yeah, the way I understand it, Flutter is the UI framework library platform for making apps. Dart is the language that you use whenever you program an application using Flutter. MQTT is I just put the link in there. MQTT is a pub sub message protocol that's used pretty widely.
Thanks. That Dart thing was the connection I didn't catch.
And they'll have pros and cons, but like one thing to keep in mind, from my understand, if you look at these different like pub sub things, like Firebase messaging versus MQTT versus sockets, like clearly if you're going to open a socket so that you can just push bytes back and forth, there's got to be a connection open at both ends, right? The socket's got to stay up, I guess. But some of these other things, they can, they don't have to be up and running all the time. So if you're programming in a mobile environment where battery is important, you probably want to think about picking a protocol that is well adapted to the programming environment, because then it can use the kind of native, really battery miserly protocols that it wants, like, just barely sip the battery, but at the same time give you a really fast push from the cloud to your battery operated device.
Mm. All right.
Yeah.
A little app to run on an ESP32 for my buddy with the sailboat. He had a MQTT, I think, server that would, or whatever you call the agent that like everyone connects.
Broker. A broker. They call it brokers, but now everybody's switching that word to server. So I see that.
Protocol is just so important because you want things to be able to go to sleep and not keep open sockets.
I got one other thing there. Thank you, Pat, for the nudging of a particular neuron. Zach, I don't know what your plans are. I know you want to make this thing work, and there's a bunch of things, and I'm about to cause you more grief, maybe. I'm sorry, but I'm happy because I forgot all about this. Your friend on the sailboat, Pat, I don't know for sure, but more than likely he was probably running some version of Home Assistant to help him in his sailboat stuff. Guess what Home Assistant does by native default? It's there ready to go do. Sets up an MQTT kind of broker thing. And with Home Assistant, you got a whole ecosystem of how do you access this from the web? And do I have dashboards? And do I have a mobile app I can do things with? And guess what? I'm going to bet a whole bunch of money, there's a lot of easy customized thing where you can get a hold of an MQTT socket and tell it, let's do a topic. And when a topic comes in, almost like an if this then that sort of thing going on inside the thing. Now, I'm not trying to re-architect your whole thing, but I'm saying if you haven't seen Home Assistant, I got a box over here where I'm throwing parts into it as we speak for a Home Assistant I'm about to do for myself for my plants and gardens and other things. So I'm kind of eating my own crazy dog food here. But
all right,
yeah, if you haven't seen Home Assistant and you're in the space, which I know you are if you're on this channel, you should probably go check this out. Probably go check it out. And it plugs into Apple's home system, and it knows how to talk to Amazon Cloud, and I believe it does the Google's Nest stuff as well. It's got adapters for all of that.
I use it to control my Wemo lights, my outside lights. I have a script that if I come home, my cell phone comes into the driveway and it's after dark, it'll turn the lights on so that I can see coming into the house. I grab the weather from Environment Canada, and if it's too windy, I'll turn off my decorations in holiday season. My outside decorations. It's all sorts of things you can do with it.
I mean, it's a huge ecosystem. I'm surprised that Pat is the only one to have a Home Assistant in this group right now set up, just because it's that sort of thing. And it's got people that don't know a thing and are able to put slot tab A into slot B and configure some stuff on the web and get some really cool things to happen.
Yeah. Well, I've used Home Assistant, but I had a really high performance thing I was trying to build, and so I had to abandon it. But it worked really good. I'm not saying it doesn't have limitations, right? But there's a lot of things you get. Yeah. But the coffee server is not a high performance thing. It just needs to get a message. Yeah.
There's a hypertext language specifically for controlling a coffee pot, right? It's got a white paper on it. It's got a whole protocol designed to it. If you go look it up, hypertext coffee protocol, I think is what it is. HTCP, I think, something like that.
So now we've re-architected Jack's robot. And, is there any more discussion on Jack's app before we move on to Ray? All right, Ray, you're up. You're muted, Ray.
Yep, saw that. Anyway, still working on brushless motors for a robot platform. So this was the rat's nest here. It's a separate ESP32, two simple FOC drivers, battery pack, AS5600 encoders on the wheels. And it all worked pretty good, but the wheels are a little small. They're only, I don't know, maybe 30 millimeters or so across. I had little O-rings on them for tires. So all of this can be replaced by this. Do some things here. Anyway, so it's pretty much self-contained. I've got much bigger motors. The mechanically things worked out really well. Didn't have to machine anything or wobble out any holes to make things fit or anything like that. I used this is a Go Build a 5x5 hole plate, and they're 8 millimeters across. That hooks in very nicely to make block stuff, which is 16 millimeters, between their hole spacing. So that works out well. The two AS 5600s bolt right onto the back of that 5x5 Go Builder plate. So that all works well. And then this is a dual brushless motor driver on the back side, and on the top side, it has a socket for an ESP32. And so it gets rid of pretty much all the rat's nest. It's, minimal wires connected between the motor drivers and the AS5600s, and everything plugs into, a set of pins here on the bottom.
Are you running the 5600s via I2C?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I was using the SimpleFox library, and so you can just, create two separate I2C buses, for each, left and right side. So the AS5600s came with magnets, but they're a little too small. These are 6 millimeter in diameter, which fits perfectly on the back of the shaft. I don't know if I can show you that. Oop, those notices come up, and my little square is in the bottom right-hand corner, so it blocks my view. Maybe I can pin myself. There we go. Yeah, anyway, the magnets are that little shiny disc right in there. And that's on the, that rotates with the outside portion. And quick and dirty tires are just a couple rubber bands stacked on top of each other. So anyway, that's kind of where things are at. I checked out both sides of the motor. I've got an issue with one of the AS5600s. I've just got to check the wiring, make sure everything's okay.
You got to make sure that you pull one of those pins. You have to connect it to ground or plus or power.
Oh, for direction, you mean?
For I2C, one of the PG or P something or
PGO, I think is what it is. At least
you can't leave it floating if you're doing I2C, and on that whiteboard they leave it floating by default. So you have to pull it either down to ground or up to VCC in order to use I2C properly.
Okay, all right.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, it just spits out the same value. You can rotate the thing all you want. Nothing happens.
Yeah. No. Look at that pin. I basically just put a jumper on it, soldered on the board.
Okay. Yeah, there wasn't very good documentation on it. I know. It kind of told you what the pins were, but I don't know. Anyway, they're
not good
documentation
on this stuff. Who knew?
From AliExpress, who figures?
Yeah. I guess they were, with the magnet and with the little board and with a little strip of pins. It was, I think, like $1.47 each or something. Yeah. So pretty cheap.
There's a pretty good reason for that.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's good. I was going to yank it off and try another one, which would probably result in the same thing. So it's weird that the one side works fine, the other side doesn't. So
it's probably just random.
Really? So that's what you found?
Yeah.
Some work fine, some don't.
Yeah, you have to. Let me just see if I can find the picture. So GPO.
Mm-hmm.
You have to solder GPO onto to either ground or VCC.
Okay. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, I just got it together, this afternoon, so started testing it out. One of the things I found that they don't really tell you about in the SimpleFox documentation is if there's some issue with either, with the AS5600 and you're not getting that feedback data and you put it in a closed loop mode, it's disastrous because it sees that nothing's changing from the sensor. So I've got to push the motor full bore really hard. And
yeah, always test your setup in open loop first.
Yeah. So I think I blew out one of these. It drew all kinds of current, shorted out my. I've got like a 10 amp, 30 volt supply, and it was pulling it down, drawing 7 or 8 amps, and it's kind of like, whoa, what the heck,
Now the issue, Paul, is that the software is ridiculously configurable, and when you're doing your initial explorations, you set all the values down at reasonable values where it can't mess things up. But then once you get it going, you start scaling those things up so that you can start using the motor. But then the problem comes if you then take those settings and stick it on another identical piece of hardware that hasn't been tested, and you've got something miswired or whatever, and then everything blows up. You have to start from scratch again when you're moving to a new piece of hardware.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so lessons learned. Lower down, the motor voltage limit, and pretty much anything that you can reduce to, a value that barely turns the motor, so that you don't blow things up.
Yeah.
So, if you get there's 3 half bridges, one for each phase. And if you get a, rail to rail short, if you turn on both FETs, it's pretty much a short across your battery. So, or your, whatever supply you're using for it. But, so I guess it takes a couple to, well, I don't know, or maybe if you have somebody that had some experience with it, but I didn't. So anyway, so it's been kind of fun. I don't know if I'm going to have a setup ready for the contest or not. I might. I've got a fallback. I had the older platform with 2 of the Polulu sensors on it that point out at 45 degrees. And I basically, I'm always looking at the 2 readings. And as I move down the course, I pick the one that's closer to a wall and basically follow the wall to the goal. And that seems to be working. It is a time contest, so I don't know if my time's going to be quick enough with it or not. But
which contest is that?
6 can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So everything else works pretty good. I used to have a longer range LiDAR on it that actually worked the best. Actually went to the Benawaki after that, which didn't work nearly as well. And then try to find different means to do it without expensive or really sophisticated sensors. And the two time of flight sensors from Polulu seem to work really well.
Yeah, if you get the 53L1X sensors, those are the most flexible of all of the single beam ones. You can do the startup to give them different I2C addresses, and it also has the whole region of interest thing where you can sort of quantify where you want, what direction you and how tight you want the beam going.
I was using the ones that just had the output of pulse width, so I don't have to mess with I2C. They're constantly running. I can look at, just do a pulse in on either side and, figure out what the distance is pretty quickly. And I think it works at, I want to say like a 30 hertz rate, which is more than fast enough for the kind of speeds you get,
Yeah, I run mine with I2C just because it's such a programmable sensor. And it's nice to be able to change the settings. and
Yep.
and you have to do that through I2C. So
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so at least I'll have something to use if I can't get everything working in time for the contest. But and I also have the hoverboard set up for the outdoor contest, which I also have, and so it's. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do all these things, but I'm going to try to get it done. So
that's why I stopped working on my brushless robot, because it's all new development and it just takes too long.
Mm-hmm. Yep, got something that works, but yeah, so it's been kind of fun. The mechanical aspects, I've never had anything where it all just happened to fit, or I found enough plates and adapters and screws and whatever else to make it all come together, like I said, without machining a part or having to slot a hole or something to get holes to line up with. So that was kind of nice. Anyway, that's all I got.
You didn't have to drill a hole in those, nothing? You didn't make an extra hole you needed to make? It didn't nail?
No, it's
I don't know that you've actually done any work in that, man.
No,
I don't know.
No drill required, so it just worked out.
Harold was last in line.
Awesome.
It took a while to get around to you, Harold, but we've really covered some ground tonight.
Yes, we have. I've got a couple of things. One, I miss Tanner's, damn it. I'm looking for a right-angled JST XH thing, and I know I could walk into Tanner's and he'd have a handful of them for 50 cents. But that's all right. And I can't hardly find them on AliExpress, but it costs $20 to send me $1.50 worth of parts, and I'm not going to do that. And so I've worked it out as I've been sitting here and found some things, and that's just I was able to clean off my desk here a little bit too, so my Twitch stream will be more than happy because I have what it was, a relatively clean desk, even though that's not clean. So anyway, what I wanted to say, let me put this in the chat. Copy this. Because I don't really have a good way to show you this screen, is this. If you're unawares, along the same line, that is a link to the Vintage Computer Festival Southwest that is coming in June 14th to the 16th. I went last year, and they have a bunch of old stuff and some new stuff, and these are our people. I was going to make an exhibit because I got a bunch of crap to sell, and I was going to make a table, and they're all sold out for exhibitor tables. But these are our people, and some notables will be there. If you know who 8-Bit Guy is, David will be there selling his Commander X16, which, if you don't know what that is, that's a Commodore 64 based variant that's brand new that he built. And if you're into that whole thing, it plays all the Commodore 64 games. And of course, there's a bunch of things you can do now extra, a Commodore 64 better. Nibbles and Bites are going to be there. Jen's a fantastic lady, lots of smarts. Usagi Electric's going to be there. Most notably, though, for me, I've got a friend, Corey Smith is going to be there, and he's going to be giving a couple sessions on BASIC and QBasic. He's a crazy guy out of Fort Worth that loves BASIC and is writing his own BASIC interpreter and has been for years, and wanted to start a BASIC group and wanted me to help at one point. And I told him, I'm sorry, I don't have time. But he's a very interesting guy, very knowledgeable guy, fantastic person.
Yay, QBasic. Yay.
What now?
Yay for QBasic.
Yeah, QBasic. And all of the stuff they're going to have, the place is full. It's 50% bigger than it was last year. I mean, if you want to see or buy or any of that kind of stuff, any vintage computers and things, it's all there. They've got software, they got hardware, and every one of them's an enthusiast. And so our people, what now?
What show you're talking about or conference?
Vintage Computer Festival Southwest. It's going to be at UTD, June 14th and the 16th. The link, I put a link in the chat so you can go view it yourself because I don't have a good way to. Well, actually, I do got a good way to show you. I got to be a little more fancier than I was going to be today. 1 second here.
So would that be a good place to get rid of, like, maybe circa 1995?
That they will have a swap meet area.
For some reason, I've got a box that I got when I worked at Hitachi of old laptops.
So
I'm still looking for a 5 1/4 inch disc. Maybe I can get one there.
They will have those there. And if they don't have them there for sale, they'll probably have somebody there that you can work on them, or maybe even somebody that'll fix them if you got an old one, right? So now you should see my screen up and see that thing. So it's lots of stuff. Apples, Macs, people are running software that you haven't seen run in years. It's an amazing thing, and they are our people. And it's not on our meeting day either. So is it? Oh, wait a minute. It is, isn't it? No, it didn't. June 1st is our contest, right? Okay, so no, it's not on our. So this is even better. 2 weeks after that, you're jonesing for some more hot retro tech action. This is going to be the place to be. And for me, because I've got some ideas of things that I'm doing here that why I'm missing Tanner seriously. You got some speakers on there, and they will have a streamers panel. I don't know if you know any of these people, but this cat right here, Marcel Errors, I have no idea who he is, but I know that at 10:15 a.m. on Saturday, he'll be going an introduction to digital electronics from schematics to circuits, which this may or may not interest you, and it may or may not interest me as well. I mean, it's always cool to see what people see and things and get a little refresher, but I'm interested in doing some KiCad, and at 2 p.m. that same day, he's going to have an intro thing, KiCad concept to creation, on how to go over it. And so that's very interesting to me. I don't have time at the moment to jump into the KiCad world, but I will jump into the KiCad world at some point, and I can certainly wait a little bit till I do. The last thing, the next time I show up at the makerspace, did I actually change? No, I didn't change. Hello, thank you. The next time I show up at the makerspace, I will have in tow a whole bunch of Arduinos and training kits, meaning it's got an Arduino and a little breadboard next to it. Some of them got some Johnny 5. I'll have a smattering of sensors and other junk. And if you even know what an Edison, I think I've got a couple of those I'm bringing. I got them donated to me because David thought I could use them, and yeah, I probably could. I know they're going to sit over here and do not a whole lot, but if anybody in the club can use them, I'm going to be bringing those in, and anybody that wants any of that stuff can have it. Just straight up take it away so I don't have to take it home. And I think that's me. I was trying to be quick. You're welcome. You're welcome. Trying to be quick. And my just anything else. I got my robot going. I'm hating breadboard, so I've just literally ripped everything off the breadboard and soldering everything onto a perma proto board because I kept losing signal and power at inappropriate times as I'm building this thing. And there you go. I don't know if I got any more than that. Well, I probably do, but I'm going to shut up now. There you go.
We covered more topics than I think I remember hearing covered at an Airbnb tonight.
Anyway, yeah. This has been fun tonight. There has been a lot of stuff. This is awesome.
Well, I'm definitely going to chapterize the video for this RBNV, so we can find our way to any of the little, must be a couple of dozen little nuggets that were interjected, offered throughout the meeting. Well, it's 20 past 10. We've been going almost 3 hours. Do you think we should call it? All right.
Yeah. Also, if somebody wants, yeah, let me know. Let me know if anybody's going to be there on the Vintage Computer Festival. Happy to hang out and walk around and talk. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Hey, Paul, just a reminder to copy paste the chat before you leave the meeting.